Hello everyone, it is Caitlin, and today we are fixing up an older 1850s gown. So let's get started. The dress is mostly done. I've worn it a couple times. If you're watching this in 2021, this is actually the dress I'm wearing in my profile picture. I just have a blue fichu over it, so it's kind of hard to tell. But it is a beautiful jacquard taffeta with these beautiful embroidered dots in them. Which you do see in originals. It is a 3-tiered skirt, so there's a bottom tier, and it's also, they're actually not even tiers. They're flounces. So tiers, this whole thing would be silk, the whole thing all the way up, and then you put another layer and another layer. So when you layer them like that, they are tiers. When you put them on a base skirt to reduce waistline bulk, then they are flounces. So this is a flounced skirt. It is a 3-flounce skirt. So it has kind of like a built-in petticoat almost. It's just a base skirt, and it's just white cotton. Could have been polished cotton. In fact, that may have been slightly more correct, but you do see linings in white cotton, and I figured it would mimic a petticoat. So if it like flew up anywhere, it would look like a petticoat. So that was my logic behind that, and you do see dresses lined in white cotton. So it wasn't necessarily a authenticity thing. It's just, it would probably been more common to have it in polished cotton. But yeah, so there's tier 2 and tier 3. There is a pocket in this thing, which is interesting to get to because there's no seam on this top flounce. I had to like put my hand inside the flounce to get to the pocket. I think I do. No, I didn't. Okay, cool. I cut a little bit into, no, there's a seam there. Cool. Okay, I thought I did that totally differently. Anyway, so there's a nice long pocket. We're about to put a watch pocket in there, so I'm like holding my pocket watch. But there's no handkerchief that goes with this. We need to find a handkerchief to go with this. So the first thing that we need to do is, this is the only thing we have to do to the skirt, is my waistline has come apart. When I dressed myself one time, and the dress still fits perfectly fine, but because it's a back closing bodice, I need to close the skirt in the back. And, well, that's all fine and good, except for the fact that I was dressing myself one day, at least in the skirt, and I was just kind of, I have to do the hooks and eyes in the front and sweep it around, and the skirt wasn't cooperating. I think it got caught in my corset busk, and I ripped the skirt out. So we need to fix that first and foremost, and there's another spot here that's needing to be fixed as well. So it is a knife pleated skirt. It's directional knife pleated. I think I actually have the big pleat down the center front though, actually, which is fine. More often you'd see it come to the point here, and then you'd have the box pleat on the sides, but this is perfectly fine as well. So we are going to first pin all of these pleats back together. Most of what we're going to do today is working on the pelerine and under sleeves and lower sleeves, because technically the bodice is done. But this is a changeable style gown. Sorry, a pin's in my mouth. So it goes from day to evening really easily. The base bodice is just a low neck, basic evening gown, no trim. And then if you wanted to wear it for day wear, you would just put a pelerine on it and attach some lower sleeves, and I could wear it for day as well. So that's what we're going to work on today. I've only ever worn this as an evening style gown, and that is exactly the width of this waistband, so that is good. We're going to go ahead and stitch that up and be done with it. Probably going to need my thimble too. But yeah, we're just going to whip it back on to size. And that's all we need to do to the skirt. It's basically done. Evening bodice we're going to take a look at, but I don't remember that having any issues. But I also didn't remember that I ripped the skirt out, so, you know, need to look at it just in case. And then we're going to start on ruffles, because there's going to be lots and lots of ruffles on this gown, or at least on the pelerine. I think the lower sleeves too. There's a dress I based it off of, and I had to go back and look at it, because it's been like 2 years since I made this gown, so I don't remember quite what it looked like. But I remember it was brown, and I remember it was sold on eBay. And with that, the skirt is fixed, so yay all All done. Watch pockets back in. We're going to do a how to put a watch pocket in video, and so the footage from this dress is going to be on that video when it gets published. But yeah, little watch pocket fixed. It looks just like part of the skirt, so you really can't tell that it's there, except for a little watch chain hanging out. But everything else is fixed. We are good with the skirt. I'm going to go ahead and put this up so it's out of our way, and we can start working on pelerine, ruffles, and lower sleeves. Here is the actual evening bodice, and yes, there's something we need to fix. This piping should be set where the edge is turned under and it's not raw. So we're going to take this out. And we're just going to take this top layer. So everything else is going to get cut down slightly. Just not that top layer. I'm going to need to do the same thing at the top as well. But this is a super simple fix. And now that we have taken off the tucker to fix the piping, now we have to put the tucker back on. So, I don't put these in with any skill because they are meant to be removable. So I just kind of tack it through the piping itself without going into the fashion fabric because I don't want to see my stitches from the other side. I do need to cut some lining for the sleeves, or the lower sleeves. I have not done that yet. But really, it's just going to be a lot of ruffle making. So I decided to do the ruffles by machine anyway because there are a lot of ruffles and that just looks miserable. So we're doing them by machine. I'm finishing up the last of them, and then I get to make piping with literal scraps. So yeah, fun. I've dealt with worse, but because I actually have some decent pieces here. I mean, it's like 5 inches. So yeah, I get to make some piping and do ruffles. And I still had to do all the gathering of the ruffles by hand, simply because their machines didn't do that sort of thing. So that has to be done by hand anyway, so I figured go ahead and get this done by machine, and then we'll work on some hand ruffles. So with ruffles sewn and piping made, these are the lower sleeves to make the day bodice. We're going to stitch these up. I also cut lining just out of white silk taffeta, which reminds me I need to buy more white silk taffeta because that's about all I had. Alright, so we are back working with the actual bodice part because I decided I didn't want to do all that piping on the ruffles, and so to make it look right, I am taking out the piping from the ruffles on the sleeve. So yeah, I created more work to avoid doing other work. That's something I do quite a lot, actually. So it's actually very simple. I just took off the ruffle and took off the piping, and now I have a ruffle that still has this gathering thread in, so I didn't even have to redo anything. And I'm going to put it back on here. I marked where it goes. And the whole reason I actually ended up doing this is because I tried the bodice on for a second just to kind of put it on and see what the pelerine looked like over it. And I noticed that one of the lace undersleeves was ripped, and so I had to take it out anyway to mend it. And I thought, well, I already had the undersleeves out, so I might as well just go ahead and do this because then I don't have to worry about the undersleeves. So, yeah, that all worked out. And I'm going to sew by machine right on that line of gathering that was already there. And then we'll flip it over and have a ruffle. So the undersleeves were actually antique lace. So they're actual, from what I know about lace, it's around 1860, 1850, somewhere in there. And then it has this silk net black piece over top, so it can actually fit into the arm side. So those are my undersleeves, and there was just a little piece that the net came off from the lace. So I just had to mend that. But other than that, once we get this done, we are truly going to be done with the bodice. And I will start working on gathering threads. So I have here the lower sleeves, and they are all finished on the bottom now. We had to work on ruffles. I still have not done the gathering thread yet. So instead what I am doing is finishing off this edge. So I just have extra piping. Actually it's bias, it's not even piping. And I'm just going to sew it on. I did put a few tiny little pleats in it to kind of shape it. I entirely guesstimated on them. I didn't measure. I just knew. I measured the armhole of the actual sleeve I'm putting this in, and it measured 16.5 inches, and the actual sleeve around this one measured 20 inches. So I just took up 3.5 inches and then just folded up over. We're going to baste it in on the inside so it's nice and nice clean edges, no raw edges. Especially since it's going to be something that can be taken off and on. I don't want something that's going to ravel on me. So I shall do that and do the gathering threads we talked about. Alright, so working on gathering threads. This is the last little bit, I think, if I can find where I stopped. And yeah, gathering threads aren't difficult. It's just basically a running stitch. You're just not working particularly hard to make it like super tiny. Alright, now that that's done, I have here the sleeve. I put one ruffle on it. We're going to put the second ruffle. I did mark up 1 3/4 inches from the top of the last ruffle because that's what the small sleeves on the ball bodice did. And they're not terribly full. You see that on originals, like they don't do the super full things in this time period. So I actually have no idea what this measures in relation to the rest of it. I already had these cut and sewn from back when I did this the first time and was going to finish it and never did. So I actually didn't bother measuring. I just assumed my math was right and was in proportion to what happened on the lower sleeves. So, and when I sew it, I'm going to sew right on that line of the gathering thread, which I'm going to do the sewing by machine. Trying to find my knot. There it is. Pull this other side. And once we get the pelerine finished, we will do the same thing to trim it. And I did go ahead and make a collar, cuffs, that sort of thing. So, or undersleeves. They're really undersleeves. They're not cuffs. Actually, undersleeves are already done. They were from another project that I ended up replacing the undersleeves on because I didn't like the style of them for that particular gown. But I like them for this gown. So I had the handkerchief for that ready. And the collar was not made up, but I had enough of the edging to do the collar. So I made that up. And so once we trim the pelerine, we'll put the collar on. And here's the pelerine. We're just going to finish tacking down this piping. And then we're going to put hooks and eyes in. I'm thinking just 3 hooks and eyes because this isn't something that's particularly fitted and it's pretty short. It won't, I think, it should definitely hold everything together, so. And it makes it easy on me to only have to do 3 pairs of stuff instead of, a lot. I'm going to put the first one maybe right here. Actually, I'm going to put it down a little bit because I always wear a brooch, so I'm not terribly concerned about the top flapping open. I will use that space to put a brooch. This needle is not the good needle. It's a perfectly fine needle, it just doesn't need to be going through silk. It's too thick. After we get these sewn in, we're going to put the ruffles on the pelerine and then attach the collar. We're nearing the end. It feels like I just got started on it, which I kind of did, I guess, but fixing up a gown is not nearly as much work as making one from scratch. Particularly one that was a felt skirt, because those can sometimes be a little persnickety. Put this one close to the bottom. I'm going to fold this in half and figure out where I'm going to put the middle one. Right here. Cool. And it seems far apart for modern eyes, but honestly, I have a dress that has them about this far apart. Maybe a little closer. I think maybe the second one would have been like right here. And that was a dress though, like that's actually fitted. Alright, we're here putting down the last ruffle on the pelerine. I really like the way it's looking. I almost wanted to leave it with just a single ruffle, which would be okay, except for I put 2 ruffles on the sleeves, on both sets of the sleeves. So I want the 2 ruffles, but I think it looks really cute with just one. And I made these ruffles slightly too long, so I'm having to cut a little bit off. But I'm basically just ruffling it about the same amount as the sleeves are ruffled. So trying to keep the fullness the same. After this, we just have this very simple task of stitching on a collar, and we'll be done. I think I'm just going to pin in the lower sleeves and the under sleeves for today, because most often I wear this gown as an evening gown. So I imagine I will not, I don't want to sew it in just for today. So we're going to pin it in. There we go, the last of the ruffles. I'm going to stitch that on, iron it over, and we'll put on the collar. Alright, and here's the collar. So it's just a little bit of white work that I had to put some darts into, and so we have a nice pretty embroidered collar. We're going to just tack this in, although I seriously considered just pinning it in, which is also period appropriate. I've done it before and it actually works really well. If you push the pins in deep enough, you'll never know that it's pins. Actually, I had one collar I pinned in years and years ago. Wore the dress probably 5 or 6 times without even realizing that it was pinned. And just randomly, one day, I was trying to take it out, actually, and realized that it was not sewn in. There were pins buried in it. So it really does work very well. If you do it right, there's no way you're going to poke yourself. Having collars pinned is mentioned in etiquette books frequently. So like mentioning that, it's, if you see a woman who's, has a shawl corner dripping to the floor, or her collars become unpinned, that you should take her to somewhere private and explain the situation and then help her rectify it if possible, without drawing too much attention to it. Basically saying one should not snicker behind someone's back that their collars become unpinned. You should be letting the lady know and then helping her to fix it, or offering your assistance to fix it. And that was the very last of our sewing. So I'm going to go ahead and pin in some under sleeves and some lower sleeves. This is what the under sleeves look like. So it's just the same 2 rows of the same lace that the collar is made from, which actually is interesting because I did not make these under sleeves for this gown, but I like it because they're ruffles and there's 2 layers. So it's actually going to go very well with them. But yeah, there's this little voile under sleeves. And then there's handkerchief that matches as well. So I shall go pin all this in, and I shall see you with the dress on. It may not be closed in the back because I don't have anyone to help me with that, but I'm going to do my best. Alright, and here's the dress with the lower sleeves pinned in, which looks really good. I only got 1 hook done. Like, it obviously fits because I'm able to get like hooks back there, but I can't reach the rest of them. So it's kind of just hanging out in the back. But with the 1 hook hooked, I can at least talk with my hands, so that's a plus. But yeah, this is what the evening dress kind of looks like. Would be definitely fitting across the shoulders better if the top part of the back was done, but it is what it is. But this is it. I'll show you down kind of the skirt. It's all the little ruffles, or tiers, ruffles as we talked about. So yes. Yeah, it works really well. And actually this is a really nice look in and of itself with the lower neck and the longer sleeves. Really nice dinner outfit, especially if I put a fichu over top, which would be really nice. But really we worked on the pelerine, so let's go ahead and get that on. So many ruffles. Ruffles everywhere. I really probably didn't need this one in the middle. I just need the top one and the bottom one, but oh well. Alright. I'm going to put a brooch on. And so there it is. It turned out really cute. It really did. I mean, even though it's not fitting correctly because I keep having to pull my shoulders up, like, it is really cute. Love the ruffles. It makes me feel like a cupcake, which is very 1850s. But yeah, long, beautiful sleeves. I think I put the under sleeves in correctly on this side because they're not coming down as much. There they are a little bit. Yeah, and the sleeves are a bit long, but only because this is where the shoulder's sitting, and it should be sitting right here. So that'll pull the sleeves up a little bit. But for today, it is fine. Yes, that's what it's going to look like, basically. So lots and lots of ruffles. Ruffles everywhere. There's ruffles on the skirt, and there's ruffles on the sleeves. There's ruffles on the pelerine. The one thing about pelerines is sometimes I do find I like to pin them right here, because if you get a good gust of wind, that's what happens. Which is very much fun, because it shows all sorts of things. Really, though, it usually goes up to right here, and because this neckline is a little higher, you usually wouldn't say anything. But still, I do like to kind of pin them down sometimes. But for today, we're not, because there's no wind in here. But yes, totally precious. I love open undersleeves. They're some of my favorite things in the world. I mean, cuffs are really pretty, and I like how they sit on the wrist, but I just really like open undersleeves. And maybe some of that's because I live in Texas, and I do some events in some really hot times of the year, and open undersleeves are just so much nicer. But yeah, yay for 1850s and our giant sleeves. Yeah, I actually really do like this dress. I mean, it's precious. Even though it's like, I'm letting the fabric speak for itself, and the fabric isn't even all that fancy. Like, it's really nice fabric and gorgeous silk taffeta, but it's not spectacular in the way like a giant colorful plaid would be, but it's just really subdued, and I still even didn't add any other trim other than self fabric. So I actually really like it. I like the subduedness, but it's not really subdued. It's totally fancy. There's ruffles everywhere. It's a very nice contrast between, there's no pops of color there, there's really not all that being done to it. It's just ruffles, but the ruffles bring it to the next level, which I think is very interesting. So yes, I'm going to be doing this all day long. This is a lot of fun. Open undersleeves. And so many sleeves. Like, there's sleeves here. I have 4 sleeves on right now, on one arm. So there's really 8 total, because I have the lace undersleeves. I didn't bother untacking those, so I left those in. And then there's then there's upper sleeves, lower sleeves, and undersleeves. I'm surprised my arm still fits in the arm side, but it does. So yes, that's a lot of fun. Back of the pelerine, even though you're really probably seeing the craziness happening in the bodice. But yeah, very precious. Wearing this out, I have a silk 1850s bonnet. It's probably what I would wear. My straw 1850s bonnet is earlier 1850s, so like pre-hoop. I even put my 1850s hair on today. My really nice 1850s hair. Yeah. This is why I don't have any trimmings inside this bonnet, because 1850s hair takes up the space. And I think the really green ribbon's going to look really nice with it. And I'd probably wear this with a purple shawl, just to add a little bit more color. And one of my 1850s parasols. This one I recovered. And I think it would go really well with the outfit, with all the colors. So yeah, that's me in the 1850s outfit. Later 1850s, so like 1857-ish. But yes, that is essentially the dress. I'm going to take the bonnet back off so you can actually see the gown a little bit better. Try not to mess up my hair. Let me toss that in there. But yeah, there is an 1850s dress. Very cute. I love the ruffles. Big fan of open undersleeves, so this just is wonderful. But yeah, very floofy, very frilly, very 50s, but still kind of subdued in the color, and the overall design is only trimmed with ruffles. So yeah, a lot of fun. But thank you so much for joining me today as we fixed up this 1850s dress. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you back here on Monday.